Hello my friends, today we're looking at a very rare and very seldom reviewed knife on YouTube. Hard to come by and not particularly spoken of in the knife circles. The Spyderco Delica. Now I kid, this is probably the knife that needs less reviews of it on YouTube, but this is a super gold version of it. So it's a mass drop exclusive, and really thankfully mass drop didn't go on right mass drop all over the blade. It is purely a sprint run that Spyderco has obviously done and sold through mass drop. I'm not sure how many there were, but it is just standard black handled FRN Delica in SG2 steel with a gold anodized lock bar. So I guess that goes along with the SGPS solid gold powder steel, super gold powder steel. So yeah, kind of cool, kind of cool or really uncool is, I guess it's all in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? Let's have a brief look at the Spyderco Delica, then we're going to do a steel test, because come on, that's the only reason I'm really doing a separate video on it. So we're going to look at the factory edge, and I'm also going to sharpen it with 17 degree per side, mirror polished, just in the spirit of what I've been doing lately. And we'll see how it stacks up to other steels. Alright, so in case you are completely unaware, this is a Spyderco Delica. It is a very common Spyderco. It's often people's first Spyderco. It's kind of like their core EDC model. About the same size as a Para 3, as I'll show you on screen, but much more simple in construction. It's a basic lockback knife, made pretty lightweight. Some of them have liners, some of them don't. There's a Delica lightweight series which has no liners and just FRN. All of them are lockbacks, all of them have the blade about 3 inches in length, and the basic model is in multicolored choices of the handle and in VG10 steel, which is a good, if not, you know, a little bit faster wearing steel. My favorite model of the Delica is the British Racing Green ZDP 189 model, and this is a particularly terrific steel. It's a powdered steel high in carbon, and this is about the 3rd or 4th longest lasting steel that I've had in my little knife lab career so far. On this very knife, in fact, I've got a great result. I think it was 840 cuts through rope before it no longer sliced paper with this front part of the blade. So excellent steel. So looking at this one, nothing really has changed apart from the gold anodized lock bar there. The pocket clip is your standard Spyderco spoon clip for, you know, somewhat shallow carry. Really, you've got a lot to grab onto. There's a few things I don't love about the Delica in terms of a basic platform, and they're all aesthetic, really. This is a really busy part here sticking out of your pocket. I find that the myriad of screws really draw the eye. I would have preferred to have actually a silver clip and black screws, because clips can be for pens or anything. Black screws would be, you know, they'd hide a bit better on the handle. I don't know, nothing major. And yeah, the handle I've always found really comfortable. Even though I've got a larger hand, I do find the Endura just a little bit more comfortable. But yeah, I always find the handle really comfortable. The other thing I don't love is just this part here. I would have much preferred either having a forward finger choil or a blade, at least a sharpening choil, and just less of this kind of odd space here. You can rest a finger in there, but it's definitely not like made for it. So it's just always a part. I'd love to see if they did a Delica 5, just scalloping this out to make it a finger choil. I just think would be a nice idea. At any rate, it's still an absolutely great knife. I just find the factory model of it sells for perhaps a little bit more than I'd say it's worth nowadays, being it's just VG10 steel. But overall, very much a safe choice. And again, a great gift knife. If you're ever looking to buy someone a knife that will seem nice to them, the Delica is a great choice. FRN, some people knock it as a handle material. I actually really like how precise the molding is on it. They do a really good job. The Spyderco Delica 4 really cleanly cut or molded into the FRN plastic. It's strong enough. I've never had any issues with it cracking. The grip I like. It does fill up with gunk a little bit. Say if you have a greasy or dirty hand, you find you might need to blast out your whole handle with like some high pressure water or something like that. But largely it's a pretty much weatherproof and element proof material that keeps the cost low. So yeah, it's a great EDC knife, not a complete home run. There's other EDC knives I prefer over the Delica these days, but it's a great starter into the Spyderco lineup. Anyway, I've reviewed Delicas several times in my past. You can watch millions of other reviews on Delica. So let's talk about the most interesting thing about this version, which is the Super Gold 2 steel. So when you're looking at Super Gold 2 steel, it isn't ZDP 189. It's not going to cut this well. I'd be surprised if it does anyway. You're looking at a recipe that is very similar to S30V, the same amount of carbon, has a little bit more chromium, it has more molybdenum, and molybdenum is something that lets the steel be heated easier, so that could denote it can get higher on the Rockwell scale if Spyderco is using it, or Takaful is, whoever's doing the heat treatment for these knives, Hitachi, or no, it is Takaful, yeah. Whoever is, providing the specs for it, if they've got it dialed in right and the makers are doing it right, it should, harden up perhaps a little harder than your standard S30V. It's got a little bit less vanadium. It's on about, 2%, 1.5% vanadium, rather than the S30V's 4% vanadium. Yeah, 1.8 to 2.2% vanadium, which is, a little bit less than S30V, S35VN. But maybe that moly makes it get higher up on the Rockwell scale to compete. Very interested to see how this one does. So whilst it is companies that use it talk it up as the best steel ever. Falcon even will sell their really expensive Falcon even F1s and stuff with the SGPS, which is the same stuff, and they'll put their U2s and their U4 little pocket knives in it, and it's a great steel, but it isn't ZDP, it isn't Maximet, it isn't anything like that. It's actually quite a similar recipe to tried and true classic old S30V. So that's just a bit of background on the steel. What I'm going to do first is, this is a factory edge that has never cut anything. I'm going to see how long the edge lasts for. I'll do a rope cut test and stop when it no longer slices paper like that. That'll be the first number, and then I'll put my own edge on it. These Spyderco edges usually come at about 20 degrees per side, just to go hand in hand with their Sharpmaker system, which is a 20 degree per side system. So I'll definitely put a 17 on it after this to be able to perhaps truly let this edge sing, and I'll mirror polish it as well. So one test after another. Strap yourself in, we've got a bevy of SG2 testing. Probably done. Alrighty, so not knocking Spyderco's factory edge, it was a very sharp edge to begin with, but I find it 20 degrees. It's still a fine working edge. No longer shaving hair. Still shaves hair at the end I wasn't using, no longer shaving hair at the end. That's not the metric I use though, it is just tearing the paper, which is the main one. 200 I stopped at. At 160 it felt like it was slowing down a little bit. There is such a difference between a 17 degree edge and a 20 degree per side edge going through rope. It is just, you have to push harder, it's more this and less this. And 20 degrees isn't fat by any stretch. But that plus, Spydercos aren't the thinnest behind the edge, that's a common misconception. Their flat grinds are great, I like them, but they're not laser beams or anything like that, they're fine. But they're, not laser-like particularly. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to at least change that apex. I'm going to make that 17 degrees per side, mirror polish it to 1 micron on the KME system, and we're going to see if I can double that result on the, because you really do notice the increase in edge retention when you move to 17 degrees. In terms of edge durability, absolutely. You might want to keep it at 20 if you're doing some harder stuff, but I always find for EDC, 17, man, that's the way to go. All right, let's go and do that.
Show like this.
hardest part of this is continually changing the angle to make for dynamic viewing. Alrighty, let's see the mirror polish 17 degree edge, how it goes against the rope. Hopefully a lot better. Getting a little rough and jaggy, but still making a cut to 500. We'll see if it stops there. And 500 cuts. Wow. Yep. Yep. 500 cuts. Alrighty, so the Super Gold 2 did 500 cuts. That's, if you're looking at my recent mule example, it did RWL 34 that went to 475. I recently tested a Spyderco amalgam, which I think went to 425 or 450. One of those two. I'll put the right number on the screen now. That's a bit of a spoiler for that amalgam review. So yeah, slightly better edge retention than S30V, only slightly, enough to probably put it down to the random environment, maybe a different blade shape, all that sort of good stuff. So really excellent edge retention. This is a lot of EDC use, so it's definitely a step up from VG10, of course. They did a sprint run of these in S30V as well, so maybe not a huge difference from that, but then you get the cool little gold backspacer and all that sort of good stuff as well. Same colour as your old mate. A to sit. Good girl. So overall, yeah, definitely a boost in edge retention over the factory model, which with my best edge I can get VG10 to do maybe 300 cuts through rope. But yeah, really, really cool otherwise. Pretty happy with that steel, and about on par with what its, ingredients would suggest. And I reckon these go to 61 or 62 Rockwell, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this look at the edge retention of SG2 steel and also this gold Delica. I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.